One. We're here today to protest the enforced conscription, forced draft by the Israeli government, drafting the young men of our communities into their immoral army, which there are conscientious objectors due to religious convictions. We as a Jewish nation, as the Jewish people, are obliged to follow the rulings of the Torah, which is that we should live in peace and harmony and tranquility amongst all the nations we reside in, and accept the yoke of the diaspora, not to seek any nationalistic aspirations to have any state of our own. Therefore, we are forbidden to wage any wars with anyone or to be involved in any bloodshed. So therefore, those young men, their objection to be recruited into that immoral army is on steadfast religious ground of refusal of not to be indoctrinated and not to serve the purpose of the Zionist army. So therefore, we are here today to protest their brutality against those young men who, for good reason, strong reason, religious reason, are objecting their draft into their army, and with their most harshest treatment of brutalizing them, pulling them out in the middle of the night from their houses, and throwing them into prison for many, many months or even years. This is why we're here today to protest and let the world know that we as Jewish people want the world to know and hear us clear that the Zionist state does not represent, nor will ever represent, Torah true Jews, and we would not, and we do not take any part in any of their actions that they do, and we just seek peace and harmony all across all nations. The Jewish people in Jerusalem had been living there for years and years and years, going back centuries ago, in peace with all of their neighbors, with their only interest was just to serve the Almighty, study His Torah, and to absorb its sanctified atmosphere, with no reason whatsoever to acquire the land of their own. But once the Zionists came with their ideology, they transformed the whole city into war zone. Instead of peace, they have brought on us misery, war, which created a city of that had been living for years in peace with the neighbors, as we could say very clearly today, that is the most dangerous place for a Jew to live. And this is all due to the Zionist actions. Safety and security of the Jewish people in Israel had always been accomplished by those nations who have ruled in the Holy Land. We have lived under their auspice and lived in peace with the way more security. Any of the miseries that started was only ones that the Zionists started to instigate their Arab neighbors and all their neighbors around, and to instigate wars and pushing them out of their houses that they had lived for decades. Well, to be politically correct, the solution really is not upon us. The solution is upon those who started all of that to just withdraw from their wars or whatever. There is plenty of ways that we trust all the nations that they could come up with a solution to help and find a way out of this. But we as real Torah true Jews have just one solution: to pray to God, follow His Torah, and just behave as we were taught by all our sages for ages and ages. The utmost that is of our interest is to distinguish between Zionists and Jewish people. The confusion out that they so-called represent all Jews and act in their names is the worst identity theft of the century that is possible. And why we are here, why we reach out to the media, is to clear that myth, to let know the world that Jewish people who follow Torah, who serve God, have no connection whatsoever with that so-called state of Israel or any of the Zionist ideology. that it will definitely find the ears throughout all the nations and will have a different view, which I believe ultimately will bring a lot of more security and peace for the Jewish people. The way we were taught, I could only give the wisdom of our sages that we were taught, and what we see it practically as what we mentioned. Truth always prevails. So it all boils down to speak up and say the truth, which, although it sounds like that it's not being heard at the moment, but with time and time again and again, letting the world know the truth. After all, people do realize and do recognize difference between black and white. You could, as Abraham Lincoln said, you could fool some of the people some of the time. You could fool all of the people some of the time. You cannot fool all of the people all of the time. Therefore, exactly what we are doing here today, what we have been doing for years and years and years, coming out, talking to the public, talking to the press, and talking the truth. And once you say the truth, slowly but surely, people do pick up on what's right and what's wrong. Yes, it looks like that nobody will hear you. It looks like that, oh, we will never reach the world. But we could just say from our history, over years and years, yes, there were times that the Zionists controlled all the media, that was almost impossible to get any media coverage on any of the anti-Zionist protests or anything that was anti-Israel. It is way different, as thanks God we could say nowadays, we have made way head rounds in that. Yes, it is clearly publicized on the web, clearly all over, it reaches nowadays to so many nations with clarity that yes, Zionists are not Jews, Jews are not Zionists, which is, it depends how you behave, and this shows who you are.
Thank you.